Hello everyone, you're welcome back to my channel. Today we've got a very special guest. His name is Emmanuel. He'll be introducing himself and he's talking about a very interesting topic today. All right, Emmanuel, over to you.
Everyone, I'm Emmanuel Akintoye. I'm a PhD student here at Imperial College London, and so I'm currently studying robotics and AI and how we can apply that to the care of older people who have dementia, especially. So how we can use this kind of technology to enable them to live independently in their homes. So on a day-to-day basis, we can have some kind of AI and robotic system helping them within their living space, basically. Thank you.
Wow, brilliant, brilliant. And today, just like he mentioned about robotics, today's topic is on AI and robotics for healthcare. Right. And then we'll be asking, in your own words, please, can you introduce AI?
Yeah, so AI has different meanings depending on who you ask these days. For some people, it's the language models, it's the vision systems, and so on. But in my understanding, AI basically we can categorize it into two distinct parts. So we have the narrow AI, so an AI that can do one thing, and we have general AI, basically, which is an AI that can do several things. So what even is AI basically? So AI is artificial intelligence, and it's basically how machines can mimic humans, basically. So how a machine can perform a task similar to a human in different applications, basically. So AI has become very popular in recent years, even though it was a term that was coined decades ago, basically, but it's emerged over the years recently due to the advancement of technology, GPUs, and so on. Yeah.
Wow, wow, this is really brilliant. Where I work currently, my trust, I got to know recently by the on-call pharmacies that we've got robotics that do dispense medications. I was kind of like, oh, I never knew we had that. And I think it's very brilliant, like especially in our current dispensation. So what are the different applications of AI?
Yeah, so AI has a very, very broad range of applications. So these days, it's almost that you see AI in every setting, in every place, literally, be it from the automotive industry, so with like autonomous vehicles, which I'm a huge fan of. So I'm
Oh,
hoping that in the next 15 years, basically, or so or less, we might have self-driving cars everywhere, literally. So I'm planning to own one, hopefully, so that's one application. We have AI in healthcare and robotics as well in healthcare, which is the example you've just given. So we use them for several things within healthcare nowadays, for imaging, medical imaging, and so on. So we have robots in hospitals helping people for like with medications, assisting nurses in different settings, and so on. Those are some of the popular use cases today, I would say. But I guess the manufacturing industry is a big one as well. So in manufacturing, for instance, they use robots and AI in different settings, basically in different use cases. Basically, there's also even in warehouses, especially. So I think I was talking to a friend recently, and just the vast majority of robots that Amazon has in its warehouse, it's immense, basically. So the warehouse that Amazon has across the world, basically, they're just being operated by robots, which is huge, basically. So yeah, those are some of the common applications of robots and AI in some of the places we see today. Yeah.
oh, wow, wow. This is very interesting. Yeah, and it's actually good to know that we are advancing. Yeah, it's really, really good. And like everything that works, there would always be a downside. So what are the challenges of using AI in applications, say like healthcare?
So yeah, there's like every technology, there's always like the downside. So for a lot of people, social media is great, but it's also done a lot of harm, like in several in different places basically. But so and the same applies to AI basically. So, but I guess one key thing is that AI basically uses data. So, it's basically that we're taking, in most cases, we're taking some kind of data and we're giving it to a machine to learn basically, and then it's able to like infer or make decisions based on that kind of data that's learned basically. So in that case, the data we're using can be a potential problem in the sense that the data can be biased. So say we only have data from a certain race or a certain gender or ethnicity basically. If we're using that kind of system that we've trained on a specific race or gender, it becomes very, very biased if we're trying to use it for like every other race or gender as well. So there's that kind of bias basically in terms of like how we train this AI algorithms and so on. So that's just one quick example. But in terms of other challenges, there's a broad range as well. So in the sense that we have we have, besides bias basically, we also need a lot of data. So even though the data can be biased, we have we need a lot of data. So the more data we have, the better basically. So so currently a lot of the challenges people like in the autonomous vehicle industry, for instance, a lot of the challenges they face is regarding data. So when you take an autonomous vehicle in one city and you take it to another city, you need to like almost relearn like all the traffic patterns, the road systems, the road navigation, the pedestrian behaviors, and so on, and the different city you've taken the vehicle to. So in that case, data becomes a problem basically. But in healthcare, there's a lot to do with privacy. So healthcare being our own interest here. So a lot of it is to do with privacy, basically. So if we're taking, say, a robot, for instance, there's a lot of ethical problems with there are a number of ethical problems with using a robot in an healthcare sector, basically. So there's the vision. So a robot needs to use a camera in most cases. So and when you're using a camera, there's that element of privacy. So is it taking my images? Is it taking my videos? And where's this video being stored? Who has access to it? Who is able to like gain unauthorized access to this kind of images and videos that we've stored, basically? So that's one element of privacy. Another one is even like with the so Alexa basically has had a lot of problems in as regards privacy as well. So which kind of like also like relates to like AI and robotics basically in the sense that these kind of technology they need data from humans. So how do we kind of make that data that we're feeding this AI and robot systems, how do we kind of like anonymize them in a way that we're also protecting the privacy of the people who use them or of the people who need to use them basically. So even speech, for instance, is a huge one. So being able to like so when a robot is talking to you, it's getting speech input from you and it's converting that to text. But in most cases, the algorithm or the speech API, which is an API is an application programming interface, which is basically that it's basically an app and a software basically that takes the audio and converts it to text basically. But in most cases, a lot of the popular APIs that we use, basically, they're all like they're owned by big corporations, Google, Amazon, and the likes, basically. And in most cases, this is stored on their cloud, basically, on their cloud systems. So in a way, basically, we're also feeding them that kind of data. So even though the robot is conversing with you, but a lot of the speech data it's getting or it's taking from you is also being stored somewhere on the cloud to perform that kind of conversion from audio to speech, basically. So the limitations or the challenges of AI today, they're still quite broad, or there's also, but that doesn't mean we can use them in an ethical manner, basically. So it's about finding a means to use them ethically in a way that we protect the users of the technology, basically. Yeah.
Wow, wow, wow. This is like, as in, I didn't really see it from this angle, like, privacy bit. So how do you, convince someone, say for instance, I'm your service user, I'm patronizing the robotics. So how do you convince me about privacy? Because like you mentioned, I've got concerns regarding my information. How do you convince me that this my information is stored safely where unauthorized people would not have access to it?
So that's a very good question. And also that's also a key part of my own research is that we're trying to convince people. So I want to have a robot live in the house with someone who's old, who's like in their 70s and 80s and so on. And they're not, in most cases, not very familiar with this kind of technology. So the question you're asking is basically what we need to do to like facilitate that kind of process. And there's a number of things which we can have in place basically to ensure safety basically. And one key thing is to ensure that which I tend to use in my research is to ensure that we're storing the data locally within the house. So when we're taking the picture or video or whatever we need to take, or the audio data in most cases, we're ensuring we're keeping it locally within the house. So no one outside of the house will be able to, in most cases, like have access to that data basically. So we store it locally within the house. We can have a computer which is localized in the house, and then so say we collect like audio data when the robot is talking to you, we then store that locally inside the house on the computer which is in the house basically. So in that case, we're not transferring data via the internet in any means. So, or storing it in a cloud like your OneDrive or Google Drive or something, or any other like cloud application, basically. So that kind of that ensures some level of privacy, basically. So we're keeping the data locally within the house. So anything we're taking, any kind of data that's identifiable should be stored within the house. In most cases, yes.
Right. And is it that there's like a backlog or so these data collected locally, is it stored like in an office or does someone have access to it? Like
So
the staff, obviously.
yeah, yes. So um, in my approach basically is that for as long as we need to like, so say we're doing a study for like 2 months or like a month or so, we try to like store that data in the house for the duration of the study. So and then at the end of the study we can then take our computer to like use the data which we need basically. So but during that time of the deployment where we have the robots or the AI system within the house, we're not actually like constantly taking or accessing the data while the robots or the system is in the house. So we need to like we wait until the end of the deployments, and then then we can then gain access to the data basically. Yeah.
Wow, brilliant. Wow. I must say you're so good with this thing. And then final question regarding the challenges. Prior to the beginning of this video, you said something about companionship with regards to AI, like filling that gap, especially for elderly folks that live alone and they haven't got people staying with them. So, like, how do you, because I know as humans, it's a different thing when you're with a human and when you're with a robot. In terms of like, hormones and stuff, like the emotions. Let's say for example, I don't intend to be the patient, but let's say I'm the patient and I'm crying. What emotional reaction would that robot have? Is it like, is there in terms of emotions and hormones, how, I don't know how people are able to, skip that bit. So,
So that's a good question actually, a very good question. So robots today they're still quite limited basically in the sense that they're not as I guess intelligent as humans, basically emotionally intelligent as humans. But that's one area of research that's emerging basically. So emotional robots or emotional agents basically, where the robot is able to like infer like your emotion from be it your face, your the tone of your voice, your speech, the words you're saying, and so on. So that's a very it's still emerging in research basically, but companionship, as you said, is a very even though there's the I guess there's the huge gap in the sense that can we replace can we provide that companionship that a human would provide, but we can't basically. So the goal is that we're not trying to like replace that human companionship because human to human communication or relationship or connection is still very vital in our day-to-day living basically. But the role the robots will play is basically just to provide some kind of companionship because say like people who are in their 80s and 70s and so on, for instance, they mostly would live alone. Maybe they've lost their spouse, or they now live away from their children, their grandchildren, and so on. So in that case, we can have a robot there that kind of like engages with them, basically, that kind of like almost like a presence, an embodiment that's there in the house that makes you feel there's someone basically that's also looking out for you, basically, so you're not just alone. So the robot is able to like engage you with in different activities, just so you kind of like to curb loneliness, basically, in a way, kind of. So, and there are different advantages to this as well, but it's also a cultural thing. So in the in countries like Japan, for instance, they like was it they like independence. So older people in Japan, for instance, they prefer to live by themselves and not to be catered for, in most cases, by their children or younger ones, basically. So they like that kind of independence. And in such culture, having a robot do some kind of like provide some kind of companionship is huge for them. So they embrace it. So they embrace robotics technology there. But in countries like China, for instance, or Brazil, where there's a cultural difference, basically, and in such country they prefer to be taken care of by their offsprings, basically their children and so on. So there's that cultural divide as well across the nations, yes. But overall, companionship is something a robot can provide to an extent, yes.
Wow, wow, wow. This is brilliant. Wow, wow. I'm even blown off my feet now. Right. So final questions. What's the future of AI in healthcare?
So the future of AI in healthcare is huge, in my opinion. So, and I am a follower of this whole process, basically, in terms of how we kind of like apply AI in healthcare. So AI combined with robotics, basically. So robotics using AI, basically. So I think for me, it's the discovery of new medications. So AI today is able to like take vast amounts of data and then be able to like infer things from such amounts of data, which humans kind of like aren't wired for, in terms of like taking like millions and billions of data, basically. So AI would help us in drug discovery, in so that's one key area. Even in medical imaging, being able to like speed up medical analysis, MRI scans, X-rays, and so on. So, and being able to like see or gain like insights beyond human level of understanding. So general AI basically would play a huge role in that. But in terms of robotics, so robotics using AI in this case, I see robotics becoming kind of like a part of the whole healthcare setting, where you have almost like a an assistant nurse, basically. So nurses today have to do like, as you can attest, there's a lot of things you kind of do repetitively, which a robot will be able to like do like to an extent. So be it taking medications to the patients in their ward, even doing ward check-ins and so on. So there's quite a lot of applications in which a robot will be very, very useful. So in such cases, for instance, so say you have the robot being able to like take medications, even help with like basic cleaning of like an injury or something like that, or even like other low risk tasks, basically. So in such cases, the nurses would have more time to like do personal human to human engagement, because they kind of like freed up in terms of having to do like the repetitive task which the robot is doing in this case. So the future of AI, basically, I believe, is huge, and it's definitely going to help healthcare to in a large extent. So a lot of the problems we have today in healthcare systems, even with the shortage of nurses and so on, I believe we can see robots and AI playing a huge role in helping people to gain faster access to healthcare services across the world, basically. Yeah.
Wow, this is brilliant. Wow. Wow, this is really, really brilliant. I just wanted to ask, like, we're both Christians, and obviously we're speaking to both potential Christians and Christians. Now, with this vast knowledge you have regarding AI, it just goes to show that the dynamics will be changing or is changing in the world. It's not